Hello and welcome to Switch. I'm Candace Smith. I work at Shaw TV, behind the scenes, never in front of the camera, but we're switching it up today and I'm going to bring you today's Switch lineup. The next segment is actually the father of Izzy Adonijay, who's an NFL player who grew up here in Manitoba and played football for us and is now in the NFL. So let's get to Pastor Henry now.
I want to tell you a little story. Assuming you are a man and you've never heard which way is the truth, which way leads to God, which way you will follow to find God. And you come to a crossroad where there are two roads and three men stands at the junction. One is Jesus Christ, one is Mussolini, and the other one is Muhammad. And you ask them, please, tell me, which way leads to God? Which way leads to heaven? Where can I follow that I will be free? Mussolini will tell you, I don't know. I died, my body is buried, and it's still there in the grave. Muhammad will tell you, I don't know. Since I died, my followers have buried me. I am still in the grave. I don't know. But there is one life who died and he arose from the grave. Is living as I am talking to you now. He's the way, the truth, and the life. He knows. He came from the bosom of his Father. He came to us. He came to unite God and man together. His life was the seal, was the testament, was the agreement that bind humanity and divinity together. He says, without any equivocation, without any thinking twice, he says, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. And I am the life, the light. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. In John 14:6, he said that. In John chapter 4, chapter 1, verses 4 to 5, he said, no one has ever come to the Father but by him. He said, no one knows, no one born of a woman can tell you where to find life, where God is. We can speculate, we can congest, we can say anything to arouse emotion, human emotion, so that they will go this way or they will go that way. But for sure, they are not certain, they are not sure. But here comes the Lord Jesus Christ, who is the author and the finisher of our faith, and categorically says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So as I am speaking before you, if you want to, if you really want to know what life holds, what your future holds, when you die, where would you go? Don't ask me. This man says, I know. I know for certain there is no equivocation in his mind, in his thought. He says, I know, follow me. He said, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. Rest from your worries. Rest from the things that cause you sleepless night. He will give you rest. He says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light, and you will find rest unto your soul. So Jesus is the way, Jesus is the life, Jesus is the truth. And I encourage you, strongly encourage you to look into what he has to say. This is Divinity and Humanity. I am Pastor Henry Donijah. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.
Films show us our world through a unique lens.
I just started to discover that I was different from most people. You know, I didn't fit in quite so much with everybody.
Films show us ourselves from a different angle.
Watch, guys, we got shell casings on the sidewalk there.
Films show us what matters from our own perspective.
The most pressing situation that we're dealing with right now is what we call the Lake Winnipeg problem.
Shaw TV puts the spotlight on Manitoban filmmakers.
Can you tell us a little bit about what it is you're doing here today?
I'm demonstrating the craft of blacksmithing.
So now, how did you get involved in blacksmithing?
I've been doing blacksmithing for about 30 years now. I started when I was 19. Just started with very, very simple equipment and built on from there.
So now, how do you go from a barbecue-like fire like this to creating very intricate things like this right here?
Really, the fire is just there to heat the metal. The softer the metal is, the easier it is to work. That's the basic thing, is you make the metal nice and hot, like so, and then you hit it, and it will change shape. That's basically it. It's very difficult to, you can, but it's very difficult to change the cross-section and the shape of metal when it's cold. When it's hot, it's so much easier. This is basically a means to an end. There are many different kinds of forges.
So now, you've been doing this for 30 years. What is it that you love about blacksmithing?
I like the fact that it's therapeutic. It's mine. I have a regular job, but I can go into my shop, I can start the fire and just get some work done. And it gives me a sense of accomplishment, always has.
So now, where can people go to see your work?
They can, I have some, we own a little hobby store called Imagine Games and Hobbies on McDermott Avenue. It's at 246 McDermott. I have some work there. I have some arrowheads and some other things. And if people want to get a hold of me, I will do custom work through there. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking to us and enjoy the day.
Sure.
Hi.
Patience. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Hi, I'm Mark A.T.L.L. As the editor of Canadian Home Trends magazine, I love to turn things from drab to fab. I decided to see what kind of design creations I can make using common household items, and I think you'll agree, the results are extraordinary. Hi everyone, welcome to our show. On this episode, we have the cutest little project for you for the ultimate baby shower gift, and you will need a couple supplies for this project. You will need one piece of baby clothing, a few straight pins, and a small coffee filter. Step 1, you want to fold the arms of the onesie inwards, and then you want to fold it onto itself horizontally, just like so. Step 2, now you want to take the piece of clothing and roll it onto itself. And we're trying to create a cupcake shape here, so you want to roll it pretty tight. Just like so. Now you want to pin it in place, just using a regular pin here. We're just going to drive it right through the end here. Just like that. Now, as you can see, it doesn't look much like a cupcake, so we want to make this look a little bit more like icing. So we want to pull the center out a little bit, we want to play with the sides, and just shape it. And if you find that your pin is coming out, what you can do is you could even add a second pin here, and that's what we're going to do. Add a second one, just like that. And as you can see, it's starting to look a little bit more like that nice icing that you get on a cupcake. And then you want to take your cupcake and place it into a small coffee filter to create that beautiful cupcake effect. And there you have it, a beautiful baby shower gift. For more design and decor tips, feel free to visit CanadianHomeTrends.ca or send us a question at ask@CanadianHomeTrends.ca. See you next time.
I don't normally start off interviews with something as obvious as the title of the book, but The Hungry Ghosts by Shyam Selvadurai, the title is so perfect, both in context of what it means to the people in the book, but the story of the hungry ghost. And I'm hoping you can share that Buddhist tale with our viewers.
Well, in Buddhist mythology, if you are a very greedy person in your human life, or if you desire too much in your human life,
and not just money, but
not just love, affection, whatever, you're born as a hungry ghost. And a hungry ghost is described as a being who has a mouth that's the size of an eye of a needle and an enormous belly, so it can never feed its hunger. And I think it's such a great symbol for human desire, because no matter how much we have, we always want more, and we can never feed our hunger, as is the problem for the characters in the book.
And for all the generations and it plays out in so many different ways, but in so many heartbreaking ways for this family. And the idea of karma as well. And I think a lot of people recognize the word karma in terms of rebirth, but it's also karma that's passed on through the generations as well.
I thought that in traditional stories, Buddhist stories, it is passed down from one birth to the next. So you're reborn carrying your karma with you into your next birth. But I think also families pass on karma, and sometimes karma passes from one person to the other person in these Buddhist stories, which really fascinated me, but I think is also true of life in a way. And so I was very curious about that, and the idea of when you come to another country, or in this case when you come to Canada, it's a new life, right? So I wanted to kind of replicate the idea that when you come to your new life, you're still carrying the karma of your previous birth from your old country.
Well, the idea of carrying the baggage from your past, from your parents' past, from your grandparents' past, is a common theme in literature. And this book takes place in Sri Lanka and Canada, but and there's some things that are very traditionally Sri Lankan in it, but it really transcends that culture. I mean, it's something that I think most generations, most families, no matter where you're from, can relate to, that idea of the karma and the baggage carrying through the generations.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think also it's I think the other thing that I think Canadians could really relate to would be the immigration aspect, because we are all immigrants on some level. And I was trying to get at both the trauma of migration, and then the terror of the weather, which is something that we just don't think about very much. But when you're coming from another place, especially the tropics, into a Canadian environment, it's very frightening. It's the weather is a very frightening element. It's so overwhelming. It's so grand.
I mean, especially here in Winnipeg with our extremes, our 40 plus in the summer and minus 40 in the winter. But you've done a fabulous job of describing what it's like, especially for someone from the tropics, coming to a suburb like Scarborough, where this family moves to. It was rather depressing reading your description of the suburbs, but dead on. Just that endless gray, sprawling, the way you described York University as well, with that kind of 70s building, which Winnipeg has a lot of, with all little tiny slits for windows, and it feels very institutional. And that had to have been really hard for a lot of families, moving here for good reason and hoping for a good new life, but having to deal with a lot of that barren ugliness.
Yeah, I think when you're coming from, say, a country like Sri Lanka, where you have a lot of street life, and you just go to the top of the road, and there's your banana seller, and he's been your banana seller since you were a child, so he knows exactly what you want, he knows where you are, he can direct people to your house, and then you come to, say, a suburb of Canada, any of the suburbs really, and then there's no people on the road, and you have to walk quite a distance to get to a mall, or quite a distance to get to the bus stop, because most people are driving, and you can't afford a car. So you have this kind of sense of being in this vast no man's land, this kind of barren landscape. But over time you get used to it, and over time it becomes home. I mean, I do go, my parents still live in that suburb, and I love to go back to it now, because going back to it is going back now to my parents' home, and I'm sure that when they pass on, I'll miss them most when I pass that suburb, not in Sri Lanka, right. Because so you do make a life for yourself, as the mother does. I mean, she makes a life for herself in that suburb, and she's very proud of the life she's made for herself, because it came hard.
Yes, and that the outer geography is kind of matches the inner geography of yes. these characters, and I don't want to give anything away. I absolutely love this book, and it touched. It's how books come into your life at a certain time. There's a lot of the plot points and the characters that really spoke to me as I was reading this. But to give our viewers a little bit of an idea of the storyline, we've got a family, a grandmother who is. Has her own demons, her own ghosts that she's dealing with. She's rich in Sri Lanka, owns a lot of property. She has a horrible relationship with her daughter, but wants a relationship with her grandson, and that's the main character of the book. But there's just so much damage that's already been done in this family that they just can't seem to escape that and come up with healthy connections.
Well, I think that's true for many families that have been damaged by history, or both personal and political history, and it's just really hard to overcome that, and that's why Buddhism is interesting, because it does provide, I think, a way to step beyond your history, as the characters do discover in the novel, that there is a way to step beyond it. The grandmother is just, a force to reckon with. Yes. She's like a lot of grandmothers that I grew up with, and they were all business women. They didn't really think they had to be the idea of house or home extended beyond the home to, running the estates and buying houses and managing their husbands' careers. I mean, my grandfather was a doctor, and he had to give her his pay packet at the end of every month, and then she would give him a little bit of an allowance periodically, which she had to beg for, but the rest she kept locked up in her cupboard. So
the idea of the grandmother is managing businesses. She also tries to manage the family, and I think that's one of the lessons of the Hungry Ghost, is to have this ravenous desire to have your family be doing exactly what you want them to do, and not accepting them for who they are can cause so much damage, treating them like chess pieces that you move around and trying to get them to do what you want and managing them. And the fallout from that is huge in this book.
It's true, but also she loves him, she adores him, and her problem is that she loves with that singularity with which the unloved do love. Yeah. And that is the problem. Her love strangles him. Yeah. And Shivan himself then takes that kind of idea of love, of how one loves, into his adult life, which is also, he is a flaw in a way.
It is interesting that there's so many books that strike me as a bit unrealistic in how easily people are able to deal with their past, and and Shivan in this book is frustrating, because there's so many times where he's just self-destructive, and a lot of the characters are, and you're just reading the book going, no, why did you say that? Why did you do that? But in real life, unlike in books where everybody has a happy ending, we are flawed, and it is frustrating to see someone you love hurting themselves over and over again and doing self-destructive things without even realizing it.
Yes, it's very much like that. Somebody said to me, it's like you're reading the book and you're going, don't open that door, don't open that door. Oh, he opened that door. And it's true for, I think that's just the way people are in real life, but I also think in fiction, I certainly love reading fiction where you feel you've gone to a very dark place before you have the catharsis. And I think that's very classical. I mean, that's sort of what the Greeks really believed in, that you have to actually travel with the piece of art, whether it's theater or in Marquis novels, to that dark place and to really be in the darkness before you can come up to light. And that coming up, that the whole journey is in a way exhilarating, as opposed to pathos, which is kind of very surface, and which I think is a problem with a lot of books, sort of that sort of seem to indicate, as you said, that it's easy to deal with this stuff, but it isn't easy, and you have to acknowledge the difficulty of dealing with it before you can pass through it.
And in the idea of karmic rebirth as well. And one of the other legends you talk about in here, and I love this, it's really made me stop and think, it's the one about the hawk who manages to get a big piece of steak or meat, huge. He's quite proud of it and he's going to eat it, but all the other hawks are attacking him. And so eventually he ends up having to drop the meat, but he refuses to drop it for the longest time, no matter how, like, they're poking his eyes out, scrapping at him, and he's so damaged that, and he ends up dropping it. And the things that we try to hold on to, no matter how much they damage us, is incredible, and you've captured that so well in here.
I know, I love that story because it was such a sort of simple but pithy way of talking about how much damage we do to ourselves by hanging on to something. We hang on to it no matter how everything is battering at us, and we're really punishing ourselves by hanging on. And then so finally when we let it go, it's sort of this feeling of relief. So you can lift upwards from it, but at the same time you're lifting upwards now kind of battered and bruised from your clinging on to stuff.
And finally, I do want to ask a bit about the Sri Lankan history in here, because as I've said, this book transcends it in that everybody can relate to it. But the fighting and the history and the politics of the book is important as well.
Yes, it's very important. I mean, it's a sort of a history of a civil conflict between these two communities, the majority and the minority, that just like the conflicts, I mean, the family conflicts in the novel is cyclical. They keep trying to get out of it, but they can't get out of it, and they keep getting trapped in it. And I think this is, unfortunately, even though the war is over, the conflict continues between the two communities. Neither side able to do the right thing, so to speak, and let go.
Well, thank you very much. As I said, I really enjoyed this book, and there were so many moments where I actually had to stop and just kind of pause and think about what I was reading and deal with my frustration with the main character who just took him so long to learn any lessons. But beautiful book. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Shaw Cable Systems or of the station. Through our access policy, we provide the opportunity for community groups and individuals to express their points of view.
Pride means to me that I can be myself, everybody loves who I am, and I have my best friends in the world that will never judge me. Right, girls? Peace, love, and pride! Woo!
Pride means to me that you have to be whoever you are in the midst of a prejudiced people, and that you have to be a strong person. You cannot be bisexual unless you're a very strong person. You have to be able to talk to people, and people will accept who you are. And if they don't accept who you are, then they're not people that love you.
Pride means to be able to come down and celebrate with everybody in Winnipeg, just a festival of like happiness and just love all around.
Pride means to me basically like the community of like everyone getting together and knowing that everybody supports each other and like their own beliefs and things, and there's sexuality, and I mean, everyone can be open, and I think that helps people, open up, if something maybe they've been hiding in, it gives them that courage to, maybe if they're hiding in the closet or not, or whatever, depending on whatever their sexual orientation. I think, pride just gives everybody that, pride.
Everybody is celebrating equality and rights for everybody else and everybody to be equal amongst each other.
And just supporting it, like letting people know it's okay, like it shouldn't be like hating on it or anything. What else?
And love all around.
Well, I like the idea that I have the ability to express myself in the total comfortability that I have, and I do that anyway, but today's a day where those people who cannot feel as comfortable with themselves can just let go, and it's really so meaningful, I think, to everybody here. You can see the smiles on everybody's faces. It's beautiful.
Well, pride means a lot to me. As a gay politician, I am a member for Fjord, which is a federal NDP riding. It is very important for the LGBT community across Canada, including this one in Winnipeg, to have good representation, to have positive role models, and also to make sure and send a strong signal across the society, the Canadian society, that LGBT individuals can be out, can be themselves, and can live happy, successful lives. So,
you know what pride means to me? Being hot.
Pride to me means partly it's a bit of a party. I mean, people like to party and they like to have a few drinks and they like to party a little bit, but pride also to me means opening up a little bit. I mean, there's no other time in the city when you see people who are gay or bisexual or whatever, however they describe themselves, however, when they are able to express themselves openly in front of everybody. So that's what pride means to me, being able to be open with yourselves, with others around.
What does gay pride mean to me? I think it's great, and I'm not gay personally, but I have a lot of friends, and I even have family members that are gay, and I always have a great time with them. And I don't think it matters. Gay or straight, we all love each other.
What pride means to me is really, it's more freedom of sexuality and being proud of what you are and who you like and what you like.
Being able to live in a country where we have the freedom to get married.
Pride means a lot to me because like a lot of people come out and show their support, and I get to spend it with my family. This is my family, Ashley, and her friends, and most of my family is here. So it really means a lot that there's all these people around here. It means so much.
Pride means to us diversity and tolerance. What about you, Gloria?
Yeah, I think it's just great that everybody can come out, be themselves, and it doesn't really matter. You find all kinds out tonight.
The opinions expressed on the program you have just watched are not necessarily those of Shaw Cable Systems or of this station. Through our access policy, we provide the opportunity for community groups and individuals to express their points of view.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on Switch. Join us next week for more great segments created by the community, which is you. So if you want to volunteer or maybe even host this segment, email us at shawtvwinnipeg@shaw.ca. I'm Candace Smith. We'll see you soon.